All right, so it would be nice if we go to our chart view here to be able to get back from that to a screen that we have. Later on, we're going to add a navigation bar at the top, but we haven't done that yet. So what we can do is make this chart show up in a smaller image, a smaller view on the screen instead of taking up the whole background, and leave us room for a button to go back or something like that. So let's do that. We first need to do that in the storyboard. And right now we have no view on this at all. We have the class on the entire page. So we need to add to this a view. We can do it as an image view, might be easier because our code already is an image, so I could say an image view and put that on the screen and make this as big as possible. Maybe make it something like that. Although it seems to have trouble with the scale. I was going to put the buttons on the bottom, but the simulator seems to have trouble with stuff on the bottom. So let's put it on top. We'll change this anyway. So let's leave room for a button on the top. And then for this view, we need to make the custom class the bar chart. What was it? Bar chart view. Bar chart view. Let's see if this works in there. And for this one, we want to take the custom class off of the background part. So you have to click on the background, and we'll take this out. Sorry?
Just delete it.
Yeah. And then we'll have to check the links for this. And we can look at all the links. We have a bar chart view that goes to the view controller. So that should be okay. But we need now a reference to the image view. So we have to create an outlet for that. We'll call it, actually, let's kill this one. If we can click on it and kill this connection, that kills that connection to our IV outlet here, and remake it with just the image view. So I'm going to select that. Oh, it won't let me. That's interesting. It won't let me select that existing view. That's all right. We'll just call it the same thing. Bar chart view. And its type. Let's see if this will work. Bar chart view. Connect and delete the old one. So that's not, it doesn't like that. Because we're not getting at the right properties. Unresolved, what? Oh, I spelled bar chart view wrong this way. Little I. All right, so let's see if that works first. So we'll run it. Log the data, view the chart, and we get a crash. Look at that. So this usually means that there's a connection that's was broken. So let's look at our storyboard again. And it doesn't like. The problem is it doesn't tell you which one it is, so try to find that sucker. There's no connections for that one. Huh. It lost its connection here. Let's kill it. Huh, doesn't like that. I think probably the problem is that this is an image view and not just a view. So it probably doesn't like that. So let's go back. Let's delete the image view and add a view controller instead. No, that's going to be the whole thing. I just need a view. How do I get that? Here's just a view. Here we go. So let's put just a view here and see if that's going to work better for us. And make that as big as we can. With some room for a button. We'll try this guy now. Same thing we did before, bar chart view, and it's a bar chart view object. Delete the old one. Try that one. Crash. So the problem, let me show the problem first. I want to record this. The problem was that in my view that I added, this blank view, I didn't set the custom class, so you have to do that with the properties, and now it shows all of the different chart classes and things that we have, and we're going to use the bar chart view, and we're still leaving some room up here for buttons. Then to connect that, I right clicked on it and created a new connection, and I called it the same thing, bar chart view, and it should be strong. And then connect, and then I deleted the old one that was there. So that should be right. I only have one connection. So now when we run it, oop. I got it confused. View the chart, so now we get the chart in a smaller view, and we have room up here for a button. Isn't that cool? So that works better. So now we need to add a button. And I didn't have to change any other code except to connect that view up. So let's add a button at the top here, and let's put it on the left, and we'll call it back to log. This is probably against Apple's design standards, but it's practical for now until we get our nav bar in place. Our nav bar will have these ability to have these buttons. So we need that. We need to connect that to our controller. So we right click and, well, we have to have a place to put it. So right click, drag, create an outlet, not an outlet, an action, sorry. And we'll call it switch to logger. And it's a button object. Touch up inside, and we get the sender, that's fine. Connect. So that creates our little stub. And we need to go back and launch the weight log controller. So we need to have, how do we get between the controllers?
Segue.
Segue, right? So we need to create a segue from this view back to the weight log. And so we're going to create a show. We want the action segue to be a show. And that creates the segue. And we have to then name it by clicking on it on that particular segue that goes back and looking at the properties. Come on. There it is, the properties, and we need to give it an identifier. From chart to logger. How about that?
Create segue, you right click and drag from any empty space.
Yeah, I right clicked and dragged from the back to log button. Yeah. So this is the name of the segue ID. So we need that. And so I'm going to just paste, whoa. I'm going to get this data. Doesn't switch all the time. Seems buggy to me. So I'm going to copy that so I have the name of the logger segue. And we'll go back and look at the code that we did for our weight log. So when they clicked on view chart, it was connected to our button switch to chart. So we need to do this same segue code. Self.perform segue with identifier. So I'm going to copy that and put it back in my switch to logger here. And the ID is going to be the ID I just created. So self.perform segue with identifier from chart to logger sender self. And that is now connected to that button. And that code will get executed when we click on that button. Let's see if that works. So we've got our chart. We click back to log. Shazammy! Look at that. Switch back to log, view chart, back to log. All right, any questions on that?
Mine just crashed.
It crashed. So make sure you have to select the segue. That's the hardest part, I think, to get it to show up over here. So you kind of have to click on something else and then click on the segue to get it to show. Because I just did that before and it wasn't showing. So make sure you have your identifier in the properties or the attributes. And that name has to be the same. And on the segue, drag it from the button when you created it. Just drag over to the wait log.
You do it only once, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's really weird. I mean, I must have cut instead of copied or something, because
Oh.
all of a sudden my identifier was gone. I'm like, I copied it from there, I know.
That must have been it, yeah. Is yours working now?
Identifier, you just call it,
I called it from chart to logger. You can call it whatever you want. Just has to be unique across all your segues.
Still crash.
and there's no class leader.
No. So I'm not going to show you how to do the part in the assignment. You could put some more controls up here to limit your dates. Or you could put the controls over here to limit the dates. It probably makes more sense to put them here since we already have some room. It's related right to the chart. So, and there's not a nice way to do that except in this code here. You're going to read the data in, and at this point you have to compare the data. You're going to read the whole file and you're going to say, is this entry within this date? Then I'm going to take it, otherwise I'm going to skip it. Does that make sense?
But isn't it easier done at the controller rather than on the chart controller?
No, it's going to be the same either way. So the problem though is I never change these to date and time values. So you can't compare strings of a date to see if they're in that date time. But if you convert this date time to a time object, an NS date time object, then you can compare dates. But the chart wants strings, so you're going to have to convert back and forth, whatever you need. So the idea is you're gonna convert the record into a date time object. You're going to compare with the start date and end date time object. If between, use that record. You could just put the string back in. Otherwise, skip. So you know how to do date and time objects over here. You'd have the same type of control here maybe for beginning and ending dates that the user selects. Take that data. We already know how to get a string, and you can parse the string into a date object. Easy stuff. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? I mean, the concept anyway? Yep. This will make you have to think a little bit. And that can do everything for you. Remember the date and time formatter, you can use all of this stuff. Same concept. All right?
Thinking how to change the selection
Well, it's
for
like
passing back to you.
it's like on these, we had the date and time pickers down here, and you would just have two dates and use the same picker job here. And I put those two controls and get them to work up here. You know, you just add a text field, two of them.
But how do you plug it back into the set chart function?
Well, you have to redraw the chart. You're going to start over.
Oh, okay, just when the on change.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the easiest, laziest way is to read the file every time. Put this into a function, read the file every time, compare with the two dates. That's going to take a lot of time. Or you could store all of this data into an array and keep that in memory and just walk through the array every time. So lots of ways to do that, but you're going to have to basically, the only way I can think of doing it offhand is you've got to walk through every element, every record, and see if that date and time fits in that interval inside that date interval. And then you're going to create the two arrays that you need and call set chart again. So, that make sense? You're gonna. So I would probably put this into a method, pass it some date and time objects, use that in the comparisons, and redraw the chart. That would probably be my attack plan. Okay, any other questions on that? Good questions. Nothing? Might put a label above these, you know. Something like that. I don't know. Begin. It's obviously too close.
So, as a user, did you need another button to submit the dates, or
No.
just anytime you change it?
Yeah. When they leave it, do you change it?
Or do you, when they get to that screen, first time, what are the dates? I mean, do you have to reset the default dates?
No, you can put your own dates in there. You could read, the beginning date might be the first date you find in the log, and set that date that way. Different ways to do that.
So you want them to show something?
Yeah, I'd expect them to see. I would say initially you're going to give them the whole log.
Okay.
That would make sense.
Just to-
Okay. Any other questions?